Welcome to the Fallacy of OKRs and how to find the right measurements of success. I'm not going to lie, I'm really pleasantly surprised how many people are here. It also makes me quite nervous, so bear with me.
So my name is, this is loud. So my name is Felicia Schwartz. I am a director of app modernization practice at Pivotal. So my team goes to customers, and I think we've been to some of the people in the audience today, and we help you, yeah, there you go. We help you modernize your applications so that they could run in the cloud.
Hi, I'm Katie Toll. I am an associate director at Ernst & Young focused on AI science and the Innovation Lab. I was previously the West Coast counterpart to Felicia, so I have a little bit of a background and probably have served some of you that were based out of anything west of Des Moines and a few in Boston. So getting started. Let's see if my clicker works. All right, so what is an OKR? I actually hear this question quite a bit, and I like to joke. It's kind of one of those buzzword bingo games. There it is. It's the newest and greatest thing that everybody talks about. I need an OKR. I should have this. Where's my OKR? People will stop you. We were just talking about this mid-conversation. They'll be like, but what's my OKR on this? And you're like, why are we really even talking about this? Like, why did you just stop me mid-sentence? So you ask the question, like, why are we told we need these things? The one I love is, you go from good to great because Google did it. Or the other one is because we want to be on the bleeding edge of technology. This is the fancy new thing. This is how I know I'm this fast-paced, cutting-edge company. And this is what it kind of looks like, right? Like, all right, I have a mission. Everybody's company should have a mission, what they're striving towards. That mission boils down into a vision, which is supported by a strategy. And every group or department, organization, however you're set up, has an objective that is going to support those, and you're measuring it by key results. Don't worry, we're going to get into the details of this. So what does it actually look like? So we decided we were going to make an OKR for this presentation. That way you have a real-world example. So my OKR for today, for these next 30 minutes, is really to give a compelling session on the fallacy of OKRs as Spring 1. It's short, it's inspirational, it's also time-bound. Those are very important components of it. And you'll see here in the lower right-hand corner, I have some key results of how to measure if I'm actually successful at it. I want to achieve 30% of visitors attending, which thank you for helping me do that. I want to get 100 views on YouTube. That way I know people outside this room are watching it. It's propagating out into the world. And I want Fortune 500 clients to read about it. So that way it's getting into those companies that are going to be setting a lot of the tone for other companies that are up and coming. So what does this look like in practice? And I'm a very visual learner, so you're going to get insight to my brain with this. My mission is to transform the way the world builds software. That is my lighthouse, my North Star, however you want to describe it. My vision is to create a new way to measure success. Maybe. My strategy is conduct a conference and share and learn. We're here, we're in Austin. You decided to come instead of go eat barbecue. I appreciate it. My objective is to give a compelling presentation on the fallacy of OKRs and how to better measure success. That's what I'm doing right now. So let's measure it. My key results are create a compelling deck. Cool. I present the topic at a prestigious conference that's attended by Fortune 500 companies. Thank you. I've achieved at least 30% attendance. Check. And I'm going to document and share this presentation out to you so you have something to take back to your companies and your coworkers who couldn't take time to come here. I'm going to attain 100 views on YouTube, and I'm going to have 10 plus Fortune 500 companies read about this topic on Pivotal's blog. So again, making sure my reach, it's compelling, people are paying attention to it. So I did the first one, check. Did the second, did that third. Awesome. Gold stars for everybody. We already hit 50%. Everybody gets a cookie. Everybody goes out for a great taco dinner. I don't know, whatever you want to do to succeed. Celebrate your success. 50% accomplished, just like that. But really, was I really successful? Was this compelling? Did I do something meaningful outside of just show you a bunch of fun slides with different images and you're all just kind of like, what's the point of this? So my key results, they didn't really measure success. So what if I created a compelling deck? Who cares? I mean, I presented this here, but did it really mean anything to you? Are you going to remember it? Are you going to take it back to your company and tell people about it? I don't know. You know, I may or may not have achieved 30% attendance, but if it's not meaningful, if you're not going to remember it, does that matter? And I can document and share it out, but if you don't actually internalize it and then put it into practice, who cares? It doesn't matter. And obtaining 100 views on YouTube, I think that can be gamified pretty quickly. All I have to do is put it as the next video on like a puppy video, and then boom, autoplay solves that for me. Like, just saying. You know, I don't know yet. The last one is a trailing key result, so maybe I will, maybe I won't. But it doesn't matter if I'm looking at this and most of my key results don't really measure what I'm trying to get at. So let's figure out, how do we measure things that are really important? And this is where we talk about the fallacy of OKRs. I did something, I showed you how I could make myself look awesome really easily, but didn't matter. So let's make it matter. We're going to change things up. So my mission and my vision are going to stay the same. My strategy is to share and learn with all of you, other leaders in space. And my objective is going to change, and my key results are going to shift. Don't worry, I'm going to put these up in a bigger way so you can read them. So my mission, I'm still marching towards the same lighthouse, North Star, whatever you want to call it. My vision is create a new way to measure success in the world, in my company, and what I'm doing. My strategy is to share and learn from all of you. A little different, right? It's a two-way street. How do I continue to improve my measurements? How do I continue to improve myself if I'm not learning from you while also trying to teach you? My objective is to improve the process of how we measure success in tracking meaningful change. You'll notice that key word there, meaningful. One of the things I always joke about is that I can have 80% test coverage, but if I'm not catching things that are going to take down my site, does it matter? No. So it's all about making sure that whatever measurements you decide, make sure they're impactful. So let's look at some better key results here. I want to create a shareable presentation. I have to have something you could take home. I swear I'm not doing that. What happened here?
Click it again.
All right. Technical difficulty. All right, so I want to create a shareable presentation. I want to present the topic to other thought leaders in the field. That's you here in this room. You're creating these key results with your teams every day. I want to hear about things that you're seeing, what you're learning, and then also share ideas so we can all improve together. I want to achieve at least 20% interaction from presentation attendees. Now I know you're not just in here kind of zoning out after a delicious lunch. I know you're actually paying attention and interacting with me. Instead of getting 100 views by just tacking it on after a great video of one of my dogs, I'm going to have 100 shares. Do you see the difference in that? It's something that's so compelling that you want to share it with somebody else and you want them to hear it. I want people to comment on the blog, ask questions, to share it out with other people. And then I want to gather feedback from all of you about how we did. Could I be doing this better? Is there a better way that I could talk to you about key results? Something that's a little bit more impactful? And that way I can continue to improve upon my mission as I go. And then I want to conduct a retrospective after all of this and figure out a way that I can keep going forward, right? You think you hear this from every pivot? It's all about the retrospective and action items. Just like this with your key results, once you achieve one, there's different things you can add in so you can keep improving and going towards that North Star, your lighthouse, whatever it may be. So let's go back, measure again. Were we successful? Okay, yeah, we created a shareable presentation. Present the topic to other thought leaders in the field. I promise we will get 20% attendance, or interaction. Thank you, John. See, I already won. Tricked you into it. But you know, there's still things I'm working on. I don't know if I'm going to get 100 shares on YouTube. I might not get 20 comments on Pivotal's blog. I'm hoping you all give me feedback, but hopefully I'll get to 20%. If I don't, it's something for me to continue to drive towards. And then we are going to conduct a retrospective afterwards, but I can't measure that yet. So I kind of stand here and I'm like, how do I feel going from 50% awesomeness and gold stars and everybody high-fiving each other, do I know if I'm successful? I would say I am. I hit the key things. I feel like we're really on our way to getting towards these other ones. But even if I don't get there, I at least know I'm on the path to getting to where I need to be. And it's being comfortable with that. That's the real issue at hand. So I'm going to hand things over to talk about real life examples.
Thanks, Katie. So this was us and how we measure ourselves. And we do this all the time within Pivotal when we do things. One of the key points Katie mentioned is it's okay to not achieve on all of these. That's actually what you want. So what I want to bring to is something that may hit in your world today to make it a little bit more real to you. So we'll go through this, and then we'll open this up for questions about it. So raise your hand if this is an objective you have in your organization. Improve the speed to market.
Hey, look.
Oh, look, everyone.
We got people participating.
Yeah, we hit her objective
Yes.
now. But so this should resonate to you. So let's see how we look at this. So how do we commonly measure it? So usually with this, what are the things you want to know? If speed to market is your objective, what are the things you want to find out about? Well, how productive is my development team? Right? Is my team being productive in what they're doing? Or they sit around like, telling jokes or on Instagram all day? How quickly can we ship code, right? We're all, Spring 1, it's about developers, right? So how quickly can we get our code shipped? Are we delivering quality software, right? Garbage in, garbage out, old saying, but like we want to make sure we're not doing garbage, we're doing quality. And are we getting better? To Katie's point, we don't have to be perfect, but we want to make sure we're going upwards and getting better and not going down and getting worse. So today's world, and please understand, I've worked with a lot of customers. I generalize this. This may not be exactly what you're measuring today, but I tried to take for the 4 years that I've been doing this with Pivotal, the things that I've seen, the commonalities. We'll discuss if you have other ones. So what do I see commonly being measured? So in terms of productivity of the development team, it's on team velocity. How many in this room use Agile and like points, Fibonacci? Oh, look, another one. Look, Katie, and more participation from the audience. Awesome. So I see this so much. Points, like accounting points. And so I did 10 points this time. Now I'm doing 15 points. Awesome. We're productive, right? We keep getting better, right? And we're improving. That's one of the most common things I see, especially in enterprises when you have multiple teams and everybody's using points. It's like, let's keep track of points. Development time. You're a developer, you get access to your code. How long is it taking you? Are you getting your coding done? You're nodding yes, so I guess this might be something you get hit with. Like, how long is it taking you to code? Development time. And it's easy to measure that, right? Especially in an Agile backlog. I pick up a story. How long does it take from the time I pick up my story until my story is in that done status, right? Test coverage. Katie, you mentioned this too, and you kind of talked about one of the challenges with it, but I've seen a lot of automation. I guess there's a lot of tools out there now that can actually go through your code, scan through your code, and I've seen a lot of companies make it simple, which is a good thing, automation, all for it, where it says you need to have 80% test coverage in your code in order for you to go. And that's a somewhat standard practice I'm seeing lately, like to get through the pipeline, they do that test, 80%, check, you could go to production, X, you got to go back and put more tests in there. So for everybody understanding things, please, you could interrupt me if I'm confusing you, okay? And then the number of bugs found in both testing environments and production. That's a good count to keep track of, right? And if we do really well on all those metrics, look, we've got a well-running machine. Everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. Things are nice and smooth and pretty and working very well. So what's wrong with the metrics? Anybody see anything? Just by raising your hand. Anybody think there's anything wrong with this? You do. Yes, yes. Okay. Well, now I may as well leave because you already said the answer. Yeah. So let's go through each one of them and let's talk about what we've seen. So team velocity, a couple of things on this one. One, what is a point, right? I think this is one of the oldest things with Agile. What is a point? So two ways. One, each team has its own thing. The idea behind points was a team. It's from amongst a team, which is like, up to 10 people on a team. It means something to those 10 people. It can mean something very different to another group of people. You can't compare apples and oranges in this world. Second, it's so easy to game. I can sit and say, oh, my boss wants me to see me deliver more points this iteration. So this story that we also was a 2, let's make it a 3. Awesome. No more work is being done, but boy, we did 15 points instead of 10 this iteration. Let's celebrate and like get a day off of work. Development time. So development time measures one piece of it. How often do you see, and you can raise your hand on this one, how often does your business customer say, great, you finished coding that, you're done. Everybody's happy. Wow, I'm surprised. So my customers say, it's not in production. I don't really care that you're done developing it. It's not in production. I see zero value in it. So if you have business partners that are happy seeing your development done, and not in production, that's interesting. That's all I could say. So absolutely. The measurement of development time, if you're using it to get constant feedback, is good. If you're using it as a measure of success, I'd say it doesn't tell you the whole picture. So like it's ignoring the whole thing about getting into production. Before and after. Development time is one piece of the puzzle, and oftentimes maybe not the longest piece of the puzzle. But you're right, feedback is a really critical thing.
He's teeing you up nicely for one of the
Yeah. And Katie mentioned this one, test coverage, are the right things being tested? Are we throwing in there to hit that 80% number that we're being mandated to, but we're not hitting the right types of testing and looking for the right types of things to be tested? Are we spending so much time hitting that number that we're not spending the right time doing the right things for what we need to get done? It happened to me too. Bugs found. Yep, bugs, we don't want bugs, but it's only one thing that tells quality, and it's such a generic way of looking at it. And I found companies, it's an easy way to just track all bugs, how many tickets came into the support, and it doesn't differentiate the types of bugs or other things about it. So yeah, it's not a bad thing to measure. None of these things are bad, but you just have to understand it's not going to really give you the value, which we are saying the OKRs should be getting you true value. And one of the things that I rarely say, I don't want to say never, is, do we know if the product is delivering value? We get so focused on these metrics that we're of numbers, we forget to say about like, hey, I'm building this thing. Does anybody care about it? Is it driving what I'm really trying to build this product for or fix these things for? So let's think if we could come up with better metrics we can instead to replace these. So instead of velocity and points, a couple of things I like to talk about is feature delivery frequency. How often are we delivering features to our business? Okay, so this ties us back to not how much stuff we're getting done in terms of points, but is our customer getting features delivered to them? Let's look at that. Are they getting the usage? Are they getting people coming? If I'm building, we work with customers that they're building websites. I'm building a new feature for them. Is that feature being utilized? Is it driving the outcomes they want? Let's stop measuring that. If they're not, look into that. You point that you made before, which is like, yeah, it gives you a feedback loop. If I say, hey, I've got no usage. I built a new piece of a website, right? And it's showing, everything in my cart so that when they're shopping, they see a picture, as an example of one use case. But if nobody's looking at that and the feedback on it is it's annoying, it's getting in the way, if you don't measure that, you don't know. And if something is wrong and nobody's going into that page, you have to start questioning. And there's so many paths that could go down about what you have to do. But that conversation has to happen. Looking at these different metrics allows you to start driving into the next level of conversations of what are the things we need to improve. And the feedback loops. Are you actually going out after you're putting things out to the market and asking your customers, does this work for you? Is it helping you, or is it a hindrance to you? You may not see it in a KPI, but when you talk to people, you get feedback. We had a session earlier today where we talked to our customers and we got a feedback loop. Only through the conversation were we going to get the honest answers we got and feedback about how we can improve ourselves as a pivotal services organization. So development type and cycle time. So this is what I like to talk about. Let's talk about your business comes to you with an idea. Let's start measuring the time from that until it's in production. Because if I'm an end business person, and you sound like two of you have good business partners, like you care about having that conversation. I come from a finance world, and my people are like, I don't really care what you're doing. When is it going live? When is it going live? When is it going live? That's what they cared about. So I started putting in metrics of, here, you talked to me today about this idea, this thing you wanted done. and when is it going into production? That's what they care about, because they can't start driving income until they see these things in production. Testing doesn't do it for you. It's a process along the way. Production is what they really care about. So within that, you can break it down so you can see if you have bottlenecks. So first set of bottlenecks that I tend to see is the idea between the time from the idea to development. How many people have to go through like finance and budget processing stuff with, oh, look at that, isn't that fun? So the idea could come out in January and you don't even see it as a developer until like June, because there's a whole process going in there. Measure that. That's the area you normally have to start working on, improving on, not the coding time, right? That's usually, there's so much been done in automation and in helping the developer. We're here today at Spring, right? To help that development cycle. It's all those other pieces that really are going to help you if you start measuring them. And then it's from the time you're done with your code, right? And then you got to get into production. We call that the path to production. That is usually really long. One customer I was at, we measured it, and we put dollars to it. So every hour was worth $100. To get something into production, it wound up being $150,000. We showed that to a senior executive. Ugly picture, right? Nobody really wants to say this is it, but we were transparent and honest. The executive saw that and allowed us to start making changes. So test coverage, I would replace that with like, let's get to end-to-end testing. I really care about the end result. My test coverage, the TDD, great tools. TDD, putting tests in your code, but they're tools to get to this result. Let's measure the result. Am I getting my end? When I'm ready to get into that UAT environment, am I going to get my end-to-end testing successful? If I'm doing a good job there, whatever I use, sometimes it is getting the test coverage. Sometimes there's other ways to get that result. Let the teams figure out the results that's going to get them that result. Measure that end-to-end success rate, and then regression testing. I want to make sure I'm not breaking anything that I shouldn't be breaking. If those things are good, how many people really at the end, at a senior level or on your business side really care what you do in your code if this is really good, right? So those are the measures. Let the team have the autonomy of figuring it out if these things are better. Next one, bugs found. Good thing to do. Again, I would break it down a little bit more. What's the severity of the bugs? A bug could be, oh, the font is off in here, right? Someone who's really meticulous, not me, would notice that I have a different font. Yeah, there you go. So you would notice that. Is a font being off as critical as my bill is showing up wrong on the thing? I'm charging my customer twice as much as he should. So there's different levels of bugs. Let's focus on the things that are really critical. And then how quick is it to fix it, right? Things are going to go wrong. We're people. We're not perfect. How quick can we get something fixed? Like, that's probably a better indication. We should be able to fix things pretty quickly so that when we miss something, because we always will, how quickly are we getting better at fixing these things fast so that we minimize the impact to our end users? One thing I like to add is, and somebody talked about it, retros. See how everything is improving. How's the overall team process? And one of the ways I like to do it with my teams is, in the agile world, retros are a key part of it, right? But action items should come out of a retro. A retro should, yes, everybody should be able to vent. If things have gone wrong, it's a great venting where you could vent without worrying about any kind of problems and anybody hearing you and being held against you. But there should be action items coming from it. So as a metric, I like to say, let's track that. Are we getting at least one action item from every single retro that we're delivering against? So, and each time I do a retro, I'm like, make sure you've done that. Because if it becomes just this stinks, this sucks, this isn't good, and you're not doing anything about it, well, is the retro really being anything more than a venting session? So if we do all those, I think you're better off hitting those getting success. The one caveat about it is OKRs are not meant to get 100. We all talk about getting 100 on a test, right? Who in high school came home with their parents and said, I got a 70, I'm so proud of myself. Oh, okay, Chris, I know,
yeah,
all right.
Okay.
That's my coworker. So we get it. But most people, you get 100, your parents, right? Oh, that's so great, you hear. That's not what OKRs were ever supposed to be about. They're supposed to be about putting in the right metrics of success, and when you're not doing well in one, using that as a learning opportunity. I think that's gotten lost, because everybody, it's easy. It's really easy. And in my job as a manager, it would be very easy to say A, 100, 100, 100. But that's not my job. That's really my job, is to say, where are we not hitting 100? If I've got the right metrics in place, it's where I'm not hitting 100, and then what does me as a manager have to do to help the team improve on that? It gives me the insight to say, dig a little deeper here. What are the things I have to do to help the team to be able to deliver on that? So a couple of takeaways from today. One, Katie talked about this, I didn't really, but about your company's mission and vision. This is really critical, and I found that a lot of teams don't really know what this is. And as an example, like we work with some automakers. A mission for one automaker could be, I want to make high-end vehicles that are just top of the line of everything in them. Another car company's mission is, I want to make cars that the average family can afford when they have 2 kids, and what they could do. Knowing that mission and that vision is going to help your teams when they have to make decisions on the ground, knowing which path to go on. And the OKRs can be driven from that. Have time-box objectives. These objectives in OKRs should never be static. Some of them make sense to keep, but always revisit them. Time-box it when you're going to be looking at them. They should be meaningful. I hope you saw that the ones we brought into the table were a little bit harder to measure, but they had a little bit more value for the real outcomes you want to get, which, again, goes back to your mission and your vision. And look for ways. We talked about even here, like, if you could game it, change it, right? Do not game. I hear that all the time. And that's my job when I go to customers. It's like, here's how we're going to take that, and we're going to game this system for you. So great, we could get that 100, that we could get that, we're done. But you're really not getting anything out of it. So challenge it. But with that, also challenge yourself and don't expect your teams to get 100 on it, because if you do, that's going to push the gaming of it. If you're always going to look at your team and say the team that gets 100 on everything is the team that's going to get the raises, the promotions, the accolades, then they're going to try to game it. So if you sit and say, I'm not looking for 100, I'm looking for the teams that are challenging themselves, 70 is really the best mark I would expect, and if you're doing better than that, I'm going to question 100. I'm going to more see happier with a 70. Make sure you're giving your teams the right messaging so they don't want to game it. And failure is okay. It's okay to do something wrong, because we learn more from our failures than we do from our successes. So I believe if you get anything, take these takeaways. This is the only picture that I think from my stuff really matters. These are the keys that I see. If you really have leadership in every level of your organization agreeing to this, your people on the ground will be open to saying, I messed up, I did this wrong, or I'm having a challenge here, and you'll get the real results you want to get. Thank you. So with that, we have a few minutes left. Any questions? Sure.
Finding those right metrics on measuring is a difficult process. It takes a lot of time and energy. And one of the things you mentioned was the goal isn't to achieve 100%. Within my organization, if you don't get 100%, there are negative ramifications. So what do you do in those scenarios?
So coming from Pivotal, I deal with that all the time. And coming from an outsider, it's easier for me to have that conversation. I'm not sure the politics in your organization to speak to it. That's where you have to get executives to buy into that. If they really want to see the outcomes you're driving for, they've got to be open-minded to getting 100, and everything we talked about here today. Getting 100 means people are going to game the system. And if you could talk to an executive and to show them how you can game the system, that's all I had to do. I had one customer, just a little side, I had one customer come to us. We used to talk about, like, we're going to move 10 apps in 10 weeks, right? Rohit, my partner in crime here, used to talk about that. Because in 10 weeks, we'd bring a team in, and oftentimes we do it. So he was holding us to that metric, and that's all they wanted to care about. We went in there, and partway through the engagement, we said, we're going to give you your 10 apps, but I'm going to give you the easiest apps. When we walk away, Pivotal doesn't stay on for long. We help, and our goal is really to enable you to continue on doing what we've taught you to do. But I said to this executive, we're going to give you these 10 apps, but they're going to be the easiest apps in your portfolio. So when we walk away, all you're going to be able to do is do easy stuff. You've got 90% of your apps are harder. But if I have to worry about this metric of 10 and to be successful, and that's what you're going to measure me on, I'm going to win that metric, but you're going to lose the whole thing, the whole value of what you're paying us for. And I showed him how much he's paying Pivotal, and we're not cheap. And showing him that kind of said, okay, well, what do you think? and we change the metrics around. It's like, let's measure about the things, the difficult things. Let's find difficult things. So maybe I'm going to get 2 apps done, but they're going to be 2 apps that are going to represent the technical challenge that represent 80% of your portfolio. Isn't that a more meaningful outcome for our engagement? So I would go to executives and show them why it's more, most of the times money talks, and if you show them you're getting the most value of the money that you're spending on this team by doing these other things, and I think if you could take it upon yourself to show them alternatives to what they originally were measuring you on and why they're valuable, they do listen.
I think that's the key. As somebody who works at a large company, Ernst & Young, similar situations, right? Like hitting 100%, we're a bunch of overachievers to the core. I was definitely that kid that brought home 100% all the time. What I like to do is set up my goals the way that they want me to, and then I have a second set of goals that are just for me, that are stretch goals that I've talked to my manager and my managing partners about. And I'm like, these are the things that actually matter. They're going to be hard for me to hit in this quarter, but these are the things that are meaningful to you, and this is why they're meaningful. So I'll follow your process, but I want you to know that like we should experiment with doing this. And we're actually in the middle of an experiment with the AI lab that I work in, where all the PMs have stretch goals that are really interesting and challenging and really hard. But they're meaningful to the company as a whole. And because we've done that, we've shown what we're about, and we're still going to play along with the, here's my regular goals I'll hit. We get a lot more support with it. So sometimes it's not easy to get, at least in my case, like getting a bunch of managing partners to be like, yeah, I'm totally in on changing the way everything is. So like setting up that small experiment and showing them, and then if they buy in on it, you could expand it out to other groups is really helpful. Another AppTX thing, experiment often.
Any other questions? I think we're just at the end. Katie and I will be outside for a few minutes if you have any other questions, and thank you so much for attending.